My struggle. A dark stain of grape juice under my broken glass soaked into the tablecloth like blood, and I jumped up. The grape juice had spilled onto my lap while I'd been lost in my memory of Kristallnacht. Now it stained my Hitler Youth uniform. "Oh dear," Ma said, standing up. "Is there some place where Michael can get cleaned up?" Servants were already descending on the table to mop up the spill. The lady of the house, a woman in a burgundy dress with a white pearl necklace and earrings, stood and gestured to one of the servants. "Of course. It's just around the corner and down the hall on the right. Greta will take you." I hurried out of the dining room. "I can do it myself," I said. I definitely didn't want anyone to come with me. I heard Ma apologizing for me. "I'm sorry. Now that he's 13, he won't let me do anything for him either. He'll be all right." I ran down the hall toward the bathroom, and then, with a quick look over my shoulder to make sure no one had followed me, I snuck up the stairs instead. SS Obersturmführer Trumbauer's story about the boy turning in his parents really had rattled me, but I had always planned to have an accident with my grape juice. A little spill on my uniform was just the excuse I needed to disappear for a few minutes. There was a long hallway at the top of the stairs stretching left and right. It was the biggest house I'd ever been in, but that made sense. The man who owned the house, who had invited my father, my mother, and me to dinner with a table full of important Nazis, was a bigwig at Daimler-Benz, a German automobile company getting rich making engines for Nazi tanks and planes and submarines. I didn't have much time. I hurried down one of the hallways, peeking in through the doors until I finally found one that looked like a study. The walls were lined with bookcases, some of which held trophies and pictures of race cars. I hurried to the big desk that backed up against the wall of curtained windows. It was night, and the room was dark, but I didn't want to turn on the overhead light and draw attention to myself. I clicked on the green glass desk lamp instead, recoiling in fear that even that amount of light was too much. But I had to be able to see to find what I was looking for. People didn't just hand you their secrets. You had to go hunting for them. I started with the papers on the desk. Internal company memos, official purchase orders from the German government, personal correspondence. All probably very interesting, but not what I wanted. I riffled through the desk drawers. There was a sound in the hall, like floorboards creaking under the weight of a person, and I froze. I reached out to the light, my hand hovering over the chain, but there wasn't another sound. I left the light on and scanned the desk, trying to think of where it would be hidden. Not in plain sight, not in an official letter. There was a little toy car sitting on a leather-bound book, and I picked up the car to examine it. I poked at it, peered inside it, pulled at the wheels, but it was just a toy car. I set it aside and picked up the book. It was a copy of Mein Kampf, My Struggle, the book Adolf Hitler wrote while he was sitting in a jail cell in Munich for trying to overthrow the government, back before I was born. Now that Hitler ran Germany, Mein Kampf was required reading for anybody in the Nazi Party, or at least required owning. Despite a playing card tucked into it as a bookmark, it looked like the book had never been opened. The playing card. I glanced at the page number to be able to put it back where it was and looked at the card under the light. It was a jack of spades. I turned it over, then ran my fingers down the edge. Was it thicker than usual? I couldn't tell. I squinted at the edge under the light. Was there a seam there? I ran my fingernail down it, but it didn't separate. Maybe this wasn't it. Maybe I was wasting time. How long had I been away from the dinner party? Had they sent one of the servants to look for me? My fingernail caught. There was a seam. I very carefully worked my fingernail along the edge, trying not to mar the card or tear it until I got to the corner. I pinched both edges of the seam between my fingers and pulled, and the front and back of the card peeled apart. Inside, printed where no one could see it, was row after row of numbers. I peeled the card the rest of the way apart and read the numbers straight through one time, absorbing them. The floor outside creaked again. I rolled the two halves of the card back together, stuck the card back into the book, and clicked off the light. The doorknob turned, and the door groaned on its hinges. Someone was coming into the room.